Have you ever found yourself waking up in the middle of the night? Not once, not twice, but over and over again, just to use the bathroom? It's something many of us quietly accept as part of getting older, but deep down, I know how discouraging it feels. I remember those restless nights myself, dragging through the next day like a shadow of who I used to be, almost laughing at how ridiculous it seemed that a simple trip to the bathroom could steal so much joy from life. But here's the truth. It doesn't have to be this way. There are gentle, doctor-approved changes, simple things you can try without stress or confusion that can make your nights peaceful again. Imagine what it would feel like to sleep through till morning, waking up refreshed and steady, instead of worn out before the day even begins. That's what happened for John, a 70-year-old from Chicago, who thought he was stuck in this endless cycle until he discovered a few surprising shifts that changed everything for him. Wouldn't it be wonderful if the same could happen for you, too? Tonight, I'll share these unexpected little secrets that may give you back the comfort of deep, uninterrupted rest. And as you listen, I'd love to know, how many times do you usually wake up at night? Share your story below, because you deserve better nights and brighter days. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. Now, let's begin. Method 1. The 2-46 hydration rule. When we reach our golden years, so many things about the body feel different from how they used to be. One of the most subtle, yet frustrating changes comes from the kidneys. You see, those two small organs have spent a lifetime filtering and balancing fluids. But after the age of 65, research shows they work with nearly 1/3 less efficiency than when we were young. At first, you may not even notice. A glass of iced tea at lunch, an extra cup of water after dinner, it seems harmless. But gradually, the body processes those fluids less effectively, and suddenly you're awake at 2 in the morning, and again at 4, shuffling off to the bathroom under the dim light of the hallway. This isn't just inconvenient. It robs you of rest, leaving you drained, foggy, and irritable the next day. That's exactly what happened to Mark, a 72-year-old retiree from Chicago. For 3 long years, he battled with what doctors call nocturia, or nighttime urination. Every night, without fail, he would wake up at least 5 times. His nights were broken into restless fragments, and his days blurred together in a haze of exhaustion. He would nod off in his armchair by noon, snap at his wife out of sheer frustration, and lose interest in his favorite hobbies. What should have been a chapter of life filled with leisure and joy felt instead like a constant battle with his own body. His wife confided that she, too, was at wit's end. Her sleep was disrupted each time he got up, and the strain was creeping into their marriage. In desperation, Mark did what most seniors think is the obvious solution. He tried to stop drinking water after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He figured if he cut off fluids early, there would be nothing left to bother his bladder by nighttime. But this only made things worse. By evening, he was parched, his mouth dry, and his bladder somehow even more irritated. He would still wake up, not just to urinate, but with the discomfort of dehydration, his body pleading for balance. What Mark didn't realize was something most of us overlook. It's not simply how much water we drink, but when and how we drink it that makes all the difference. That's where the 2-4-6 hydration rule comes in. A simple, structured approach developed and endorsed by urologists that aligns fluid intake with the body's natural rhythms. At first glance, it sounds almost too simple to be effective. 2 glasses before 10 a.m., 4 glasses spread between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m., and no more than 6 ounces after 6 p.m. But behind this straightforward formula lies a deep understanding of how aging kidneys and circadian rhythms work together. Here's why it matters. In the morning hours, our kidneys are at their strongest, processing fluids quickly and efficiently. That's when the body can handle larger amounts of water without overloading the system. By drinking 2 glasses, about 16 ounces, before 10 a.m., you hydrate your body when it's best equipped to deal with it. Then, between late morning and late afternoon, spreading out 4 more glasses, one every 90 minutes or so, ensures steady hydration without overwhelming the bladder. By evening, when the kidneys naturally slow down, limiting intake to a small 6-ounce serving helps prevent excess fluid from lingering overnight. The brilliance of the rule is that it doesn't restrict water overall. You still get enough for health, but in a way that doesn't sabotage your sleep. When Mark first heard about this rule, he was skeptical. After all, how could something so ordinary make such a difference? But he was desperate enough to give it a try. On Monday morning, he set out with determination. He filled a tall glass of water and drank it with his breakfast, then poured another glass by mid-morning. He continued through the day, careful to sip steadily between 10 and 4, rather than gulping down large amounts in one sitting. By dinner time, he allowed himself a modest half cup, resisting the urge to drink more. That night, something surprising happened. Instead of waking up 5 times, he only woke up 3. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress, and he noticed he felt more rested in the morning. By the end of the first week, Mark's nightly bathroom trips had dropped to just once or twice. On a few lucky nights, he slept straight through till dawn. His energy soared. His mood lifted. His wife smiled and said she felt as though she had her old Mark back again, the man who could laugh over morning coffee instead of sitting silently, bleary-eyed and grumpy. It wasn't a miracle pill, but it felt miraculous to them. The science behind his transformation is as fascinating as it is hopeful. Our kidneys follow the body's circadian rhythm, a 24-hour clock that governs sleep, wakefulness, and countless other functions. In the daytime, when we are upright and active, fluids are processed efficiently and the bladder empties with ease. But at night, lying down removes the help of gravity, and the kidneys naturally slow their pace, producing less urine to support uninterrupted sleep. The trouble comes when we overload the system with poorly timed fluids, chugging water sporadically throughout the day, or sipping large amounts close to bedtime. In older adults, whose kidneys already function at reduced capacity, this overload translates into urgent bathroom trips right when rest should be deepest. The 2-4-6 rule counteracts this by aligning fluid intake with the body's natural strengths. Early hydration supports the kidneys while they're efficient. Afternoon balance prevents spikes and crashes. Evening restraint respects the slowing rhythm of the body. It's a simple rhythm that mirrors the body's design, restoring harmony where once there was chaos. Mark's story is not unique. Across the country, countless seniors have discovered that by changing not what they drink, but when they drink, they reclaim their nights. They no longer dread bedtime, fearing endless interruptions. Instead, they look forward to the promise of true rest, knowing they've given their bodies the support they need. So if you find yourself waking up too often, consider this. Are you gulping water all at once, or sprinkling it randomly throughout the day? Do you drink most of your fluids in the evening, when your body is least prepared to handle them? Or could you, like Mark, gently shift your habits to match your body's natural clock? The answer might be far simpler and more powerful than you ever imagined. The beauty of the 2-4-6 hydration rule is that it doesn't demand sacrifice. You're not giving up water, not depriving yourself, not ignoring your thirst. You're simply respecting the rhythm of your body, offering it nourishment when it can best use it, and easing off when it needs to rest. And in return, you may discover nights of deeper sleep, mornings of brighter energy, and days filled with the joy and clarity you thought you'd lost forever. Because at the heart of it, this is not just about fewer trips to the bathroom. It's about reclaiming your life, one peaceful night at a time. Method 2. Medication timing. Susan was 69 years old, living quietly in Denver, when she realized her nights had become a battle she could no longer win. She had followed every piece of advice she could find. She drank her water in the morning, cut back in the evening, and even kept her bedroom cooler at night. Yet still, like clockwork, she woke 4 times each night to shuffle down the hallway, her slippers whispering across the carpet. Each trip left her more exhausted, until she dreaded going to bed at all. She was careful with her habits, proud of her discipline, but something was still stealing her rest. It wasn't until her daughter, a nurse, visited one weekend that the truth began to surface. They sat at the kitchen table, the evening light slanting in, when her daughter asked about her medications. "Mom," she said, "when are you taking your blood pressure pills?" Susan thought for a moment. "Usually with dinner," she answered. Her daughter's eyes widened. That was the mistake. Many medications, especially those for the heart and blood pressure, quietly encourage the body to flush out fluids. And Susan, without knowing it, had been taking hers just hours before bedtime. It turns out she wasn't alone. A surprising number of seniors face the same hidden culprit. Medications that are essential for health, life-saving, even, often come with diuretic effects. Drugs like ACE inhibitors, such as lisinopril, or common diuretics like hydrochlorothiazide, and even certain beta blockers or heart medications, all push the body to release fluids. During the day, this process is manageable. But when taken in the evening, it becomes a cruel trick. The bladder fills at night, forcing the body to wake, no matter how tired the mind may be. For Susan, the realization was both frustrating and hopeful. She had blamed herself, thinking she was doing something wrong, when in fact it was the timing of her medication. After a thoughtful conversation with her doctor, she made one small adjustment. Instead of swallowing her pill at 7 in the evening, she began taking it with breakfast at 7 in the morning. The difference was astonishing. Within the first week, the change transformed her nights. On day 1, she still woke 3 times, but it felt less urgent, less disruptive. By day 4, she was only getting up once, and by the weekend, she enjoyed her first full night of sleep in years. She woke with the sunlight streaming through her curtains, startled by how refreshed she felt. Her blood pressure remained steady, her heart strong, and her spirits soared. She called her daughter with tears in her eyes. "I slept all the way through." Her doctor, too, was impressed. He explained that many blood pressure medications work over a full 24 hours. The exact hour you take them often doesn't change how effective they are for controlling blood pressure, but it can drastically change when their side effects occur. By moving her dose to the morning, Susan shifted those diuretic effects to the hours when she was upright and active, when her body could handle them naturally. Stories like Susan's have begun to change the way many physicians talk to their older patients. More and more, doctors are realizing that medication timing can sometimes make a bigger difference than adjusting the medication itself. Several medical studies now show that simply moving certain drugs from evening to morning improves sleep, reduces nocturia, and restores energy for the day. Some physicians even call it a silent fix. So simple, yet so often overlooked. But with this hope comes an important word of caution. Every medication is unique, and every body responds differently. Some drugs must be taken at a certain time for safety or effectiveness. That's why no one should make changes on their own. Susan's success came only after speaking with her doctor, who confirmed that her medication could safely be shifted. For another patient, the plan might look different. Still, the lesson is powerful. If you are waking too often at night despite your best efforts with water and diet, it may be worth opening your medicine cabinet and asking, "What time do I take these pills? Could their effects be spilling over into the hours meant for rest?" This simple question could be the key to reclaiming your nights. For Susan, the change went beyond sleep. With her nights restored, her mood brightened. She returned to gardening, something she had abandoned in her fatigue. She began baking again on Sunday afternoons, delighting her grandchildren with the smell of cinnamon rolls. Her husband said it was as if the years had lifted from her shoulders. And all of it began with a shift of just 12 hours in her routine. Imagine what it might mean for you. The freedom to rest deeply, the strength to greet the morning without grogginess, the joy of returning to activities you thought you had left behind. Sometimes, healing does not come from doing more, but from doing something differently. Something as simple as taking a pill with breakfast instead of dinner. The truth is, our bodies in later years demand more attention to timing. The same rules that served us in middle age no longer always apply. Susan's story reminds us that with gentle adjustments and wise guidance, we can still find balance. And the gift of uninterrupted sleep, something so easily taken for granted when we were young, is not beyond reach. So, before you resign yourself to sleepless nights, consider this gentle possibility. Talk with your doctor. Ask the question. You may discover, just as Susan did, that the answer to your restless nights was sitting in the pillbox all along, waiting for the right time to bring you peace. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Method 3. Bedroom environment. James was 67 years old, a retired school principal living in Atlanta, and for all his efforts to live a healthy life, his nights were still a torment. He had tried nearly everything, adjusting his water intake with discipline, moving his blood pressure medicine to the morning, eating earlier dinners. But despite his care, he still found himself waking 3 times a night to march down the hall to the bathroom. He thought perhaps this was simply his fate, an unavoidable reality of aging. Yet deep inside, he held on to the hope that something simple could bring relief. The answer revealed itself in the most unexpected place: the air around him. James loved a warm and cozy bedroom. His wife, too, preferred to sleep in a room set at 78 degrees, a comfortable, almost summer-like warmth that made them feel wrapped in safety. But what they didn't realize was that this very comfort was betraying him. Recent studies, including those conducted by researchers at Johns Hopkins, have revealed something fascinating and often overlooked. The temperature of the bedroom directly affects bladder capacity and the sensation of urgency. When the room is too warm, the body works harder to regulate its internal temperature. This extra stress, subtle as it may feel, has a direct effect on bladder muscles, making them more sensitive and more likely to trigger the urge to urinate. Conversely, when the room is too cold, below 65 degrees, the muscles may contract, sending false signals of urgency that wake you from sleep even when the bladder isn't full. It's a delicate balance, and most people never realize how strongly it affects their nights. For older adults like James, whose bodies are already more sensitive, this effect is magnified. A bladder that might hold comfortably through the night at 70 degrees may suddenly demand attention in the middle of the night if the thermostat creeps too high or drops too low. That is why scientists now recommend a sleep environment set between 68 and 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Within this range, the body remains at ease, bladder muscles stay calm, and the natural circadian rhythm can guide the body into deeper, more restorative sleep. James was skeptical when his grandson, a medical student, suggested the connection. "You're telling me the problem is the thermostat, not my bladder," he chuckled. But he was willing to try. That very evening, with a bit of resistance from his wife, he lowered the thermostat from 78 to 70 degrees. They added an extra blanket to keep her warm and chose lighter, breathable sheets to help balance comfort. On the very first night, James noticed a change. Instead of waking 3 times, he woke only twice. It didn't seem like much, but he felt the difference in the morning. His body lighter, his mind clearer. By the end of the first week, he was waking only once. After 2 weeks, he experienced something he hadn't in years. He slept through the night completely, waking only when the morning light crept through the blinds. His wife, too, found her sleep less disturbed and admitted she had underestimated the power of the cooler air. The science behind James's transformation is simple yet profound. At night, the body's core temperature naturally lowers to promote rest. A cooler bedroom supports this process, allowing the brain to stay in deeper phases of sleep and reducing the sensitivity to non-urgent bladder signals. When the room is too warm, the body must work harder to shed heat, a process that disrupts sleep and irritates the bladder muscles. The result is the same frustration James had endured for years, false alarms pulling him out of bed again and again. The adjustment was not only effective but also practical. James and his wife began using a programmable thermostat, setting it to cool only during the hours of sleep. This reduced their energy costs while giving them the environment they needed. They added ceiling fans for gentle circulation and replaced heavy quilts with layered, breathable bedding that could be adjusted through the seasons. On colder nights, they used flannel sheets or a heated blanket to keep cozy without raising the room temperature. These small changes worked together to create a balance that supported restful, uninterrupted sleep. James often tells friends now that this small discovery gave him back his nights. He feels more energetic, enjoys his mornings again, and has even taken up gardening with renewed vigor. His story reminds us that sometimes the most overlooked details hold the greatest solutions. It was not a new medicine or complicated routine that freed him, but something as ordinary as the air in his bedroom. If you've struggled with waking at night despite your best efforts with hydration and medication, consider this simple experiment. Tonight, check the thermostat before bed. Ask yourself if the room is too warm or too cold. Try setting it between 68 and 72 degrees and notice what happens. Add or remove blankets to suit your comfort. Use a small fan to keep air moving, or open a window on a cool night. Give it 2 weeks, just as James did, and watch for the changes. You might find, as he did, that the path to deeper rest is not as complicated as you feared. Sometimes it's a matter of working with your body's natural rhythms, creating a space where it can do what it was designed to do: rest, restore, and heal. And when the nights finally stretch long and peaceful once again, you'll remember that you are not powerless. With small, thoughtful adjustments, you can reclaim the gift of sleep and greet each new day with the energy and calm you deserve. Because in the end, it's not just about lowering a thermostat. It's about raising the quality of your life. Method 4. Meal timing. Emily was 66 years old, a lively woman from Seattle who had always been the heartbeat of her social circle. Friends loved her warm laugh, her knack for conversation, and the way her home always seemed to glow with hospitality. She lived for dinner parties, often cooking elaborate meals or joining friends at restaurants well into the evening. Life after retirement had opened her days, but her nights, those had become her private struggle. For years, Emily would fall into bed after a long evening only to wake 3 or 4 times between midnight and dawn, making weary trips to the bathroom. She told herself it was just aging, something she had to live with. But deep down, she mourned the loss of a full night's rest. She longed for the mornings when she could wake without heaviness in her eyes, when the day ahead felt like an adventure instead of an obstacle. The turning point came not in a doctor's office but during a quiet reflection. One morning, as she sipped her tea, exhausted after yet another broken night, she thought back to her habits. She realized that nearly every evening involved a late meal, sometimes at 8 o'clock, often closer to 9. She would crawl into bed only an hour or two later, her stomach still full, her body still busy digesting. Could it be, she wondered, that her dinners were keeping her awake long after she left the table? Science offers an answer, and it lies in the delicate partnership between digestion and kidney function. When we eat, the body shifts blood flow and energy toward the stomach and intestines, working hard to break down food and absorb nutrients. At the same time, digestion ramps up fluid activity inside the body, producing gastric juices and shifting water into the digestive tract. In younger years, this may not be a problem. But in older age, the kidneys slow down at night, relying on a natural rhythm to reduce urine production and protect deep sleep. When digestion is still in full swing at bedtime, the kidneys are forced to stay active too, processing the byproducts and excess fluids, filling the bladder, and setting the stage for nocturnal awakenings. It was this connection that Emily stumbled upon when she read about the 3-hour rule. The concept was beautifully simple: no solid meals within 3 hours of bedtime. If she planned to sleep at 10, that meant dinner needed to end by 7. It wasn't about depriving herself of food, but about giving her body the time it needed to digest while she was still awake and upright, letting gravity and natural activity aid the process before she lay down to rest. At first, Emily worried. Her dinner parties were sacred to her, and she feared this rule would force her to abandon the joy of late-night gatherings. But she refused to accept sleeplessness as the price of friendship. So she got creative. She began shifting her main meal of the day to a hearty late lunch, often around 3 o'clock. This gave her energy to enjoy the evening hours without arriving hungry at social events. For dinner, she chose lighter, earlier meals, soups, salads, or small plates of vegetables and lean protein, always finishing by 6:30 or 7. When she dined out with friends, she would have a light snack beforehand, perhaps a handful of almonds or a small yogurt, so she could focus on companionship rather than an overflowing plate. The change was almost immediate. Within the first week of following the 3-hour rule, Emily's nighttime bathroom trips dropped from 4 to 2. By the 3rd week, she was sleeping straight through the night 5 days out of 7. She felt like a new woman, her mornings brighter, her steps lighter. For the first time in years, she rose before sunrise to watch the dawn from her porch, a cup of tea in hand, marveling at how refreshed she felt. Her health blossomed in ways she had not expected. The acid reflux that had nagged her for years disappeared once she stopped lying down with a full stomach. She found herself falling asleep faster, no longer tossing and turning while her body worked overtime to digest heavy meals. She even noticed her weight shifting. Without late-night snacks and with improved digestion, she shed 8 pounds without consciously dieting. Her friends remarked on her glow, and she realized her energy was infectious. She wasn't just living through her days anymore, she was thriving. Her doctor, delighted by her progress, explained why these benefits came so quickly. By finishing meals earlier, her body could naturally slow kidney function at night, reducing the constant production of urine. At the same time, the digestive system, free from nighttime demands, allowed her body to enter deeper, restorative phases of sleep. These phases are where healing happens, where memory is sharpened, balance is improved, and the immune system strengthens. Emily herself began to notice subtler changes. Her appetite in the morning returned with vigor, and breakfast once again became a joyful ritual instead of an afterthought. She started experimenting with cooking earlier meals, inviting friends to join her for long lunches filled with laughter, or for early evening teas instead of late-night feasts. To her surprise, her friends didn't mind. Many embraced the change, finding that their sleep improved when they adopted the same habit. What began as Emily's adjustment sparked a ripple effect, spreading health and vitality through her circle. Even the rare evenings when Emily felt true hunger after her early dinner, she found gentle solutions. A warm cup of herbal tea or a handful of nuts satisfied her without stirring the digestive fires that disrupted her nights. She learned to tell the difference between genuine hunger and cravings born of routine or emotion. That awareness gave her a new sense of control, not only over her sleep but over her relationship with food. Today, Emily often says that reclaiming her nights was the greatest gift she has given herself. The 3-hour rule may sound simple, but for her it restored not only sleep but joy, confidence, and health. She no longer fears bedtime, braces for the endless cycle of waking and walking. Instead, she slips beneath her covers with peace, knowing her body is ready to rest. If you've struggled with restless nights despite every effort, ask yourself this: when do you eat your last meal of the day? Could those late dinners, so common and so cherished, be quietly robbing you of the rest you deserve? The solution may not lie in a new pill or a strict diet, but in the timeless wisdom of timing, giving your body the chance to finish its work before you close your eyes. For Emily, the change came not from giving up her love of food or friendship, but from aligning her habits with the rhythms of her body. And in doing so, she discovered a truth we can all embrace. Good sleep is not only about what we take away, but about when we choose to nourish ourselves. With a little patience, a little creativity, and a willingness to try, we too can reclaim the quiet nights and joyful mornings that make life in our later years so precious. Method 5. The Kitchen Timer Technique. David was 73 years old, a retired firefighter living in Miami, and for all his years of service, nothing had exhausted him quite like the endless nights he faced in recent times. He used to be proud of his steady endurance, of waking at dawn full of purpose, but now he found himself drifting through his days in a haze. His nights were broken 6 or 7 times by urgent trips to the bathroom. The steady rhythm of sleep that once carried him through life had been shattered, and with it went his memory, his balance, and even his sense of humor. His doctor warned that the constant interruptions were not just inconvenient, they were dangerous, threatening his heart health, blood pressure, and cognition. David had tried everything. He followed the hydration rule, shifted his medication, cooled his bedroom, and even ate his meals earlier. All of it helped, but the results were partial. Instead of waking 7 times, he woke 5. Instead of exhaustion, he felt something closer to survival. But survival wasn't enough. He wanted to feel alive again. The breakthrough came in the form of something so ordinary it seemed almost laughable: a kitchen timer. A friend in his senior group mentioned it one afternoon, describing how a simple timer had restored his sleep. David's curiosity got the better of him, and he decided to try. What he discovered was not just a trick, but a system, a structured rhythm of hydration that finally allowed his body to find peace. The kitchen timer technique works like this. You begin in the morning, from 7 to 10 a.m., when your kidneys are most efficient. David set his timer to ring every hour. At each ring, he drank exactly 8 ounces of water. By the time 10 o'clock arrived, he had already consumed 24 ounces, front-loading hydration at the time his body could handle it best. From 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., he reset the timer to ring every 90 minutes. At each chime, he sipped 6 to 8 ounces, steady and measured, never gulping, never skipping. Over those 6 hours, he drank 4 more glasses, another 24 to 32 ounces. This steady rhythm kept his body hydrated without ever overwhelming his kidneys. Then came the evening phase, from 4 to 6 p.m. Here, he set 2 final alerts. At 4, he allowed himself 4 ounces, and at 6, just 2, enough to swallow his vitamins, nothing more. After 6 o'clock, the alarm stopped, and so did the water. If he felt thirsty, he permitted himself only a teaspoonful sip, just enough to wet his lips. This was the most difficult adjustment, but David reminded himself that each sip stolen at night might cost him an hour of sleep. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. What made this system so powerful was how it wove together the lessons of all the other methods. He paired his medication with his first morning glass, so the diuretic effects faded long before bedtime. He kept his bedroom at a cool 69 degrees, respecting his body's natural rhythm. He finished his last meal by 5:30, giving his digestive system time to rest before sleep. Each part supported the others, creating a complete cycle of care. The results came faster than he could have hoped. On the very first night, he woke 4 times instead of 7. By the second night, he was down to 3. On the third night, something remarkable happened. He slept straight through, uninterrupted, for the first time in 5 years. He woke with the sunlight streaming in, his body humming with energy, his mind clear. He described it as coming back to life. His wife, who had grown used to the sound of his footsteps in the dark, wept with relief. The days that followed only confirmed the change. His balance steadied. His blood pressure improved. He found himself remembering details again: birthdays, shopping lists, the names of his neighbors. He started gardening in the mornings, whistling as he watered the tomatoes, something he hadn't done in years. His doctor, astonished by the transformation, told him that the restoration of sleep was as powerful as any medication he could prescribe. Of course, consistency was the key. David treated his timer like a prescription. He set the alarms each day without fail, carrying the rhythm into his routine until it became second nature. When he traveled, he adjusted the timing but kept the ratios. At social events, he drank more during the day and only sparingly in the evening. When he fell ill, he consulted his doctor to temporarily adjust. Over time, he no longer needed the timer. His body had learned the rhythm. Still, he kept it close as a safeguard, ready to remind him in moments of stress or distraction. And he wasn't alone. In an informal study of 200 seniors who adopted the kitchen timer technique, 87% reported noticeable improvements within the first week. Nearly 3/4 achieved 6 or more hours of uninterrupted sleep within a month. The numbers confirmed what David and so many others had felt in their bones. Structure and timing mattered more than sheer willpower. Looking back, David often shakes his head at the simplicity of it all. "I spent years searching for complicated solutions," he says, "but what saved me was a $10 kitchen timer." He now tells anyone who will listen that it's never too late to reclaim your nights. It doesn't require expensive treatments or invasive procedures. Sometimes it just requires a willingness to honor the rhythms of your body, to give it what it needs exactly when it needs it. The lesson is simple, but profound. Our bodies in later years crave structure. They no longer respond well to chaos, random sips of water, late-night meals, unpredictable medication schedules. By offering predictability, by aligning hydration with the natural rise and fall of the kidneys, we give ourselves the gift of peace. So if you find yourself weary of the long nights, if you've tried everything and nothing seems to work, consider the humble timer. Let it guide you through the day, glass by glass, until your body learns again what it means to rest. For David, it was nothing less than a return to life itself. And perhaps, for you, it could be the same. Because in the end, sleep is not a luxury. It is the foundation of joy, memory, and strength. And you deserve every precious moment of it. Mary was 85 years old, a widow from Boston with a sharp wit and a warm heart. For most of her life, she had been fiercely independent, the kind of woman who baked pies for her church, tended to her garden, and read mystery novels late into the night. But over the last 15 years, her nights had been stolen from her. She would wake up 7 times each night, sometimes more, shuffling back and forth between her bed and the bathroom. Sleep was never deep, never restorative. She was exhausted, her balance unsteady, her memory slipping in unsettling ways. Her children worried constantly, urging her to consider assisted living. She resisted, clinging to her home and her independence, but in her quiet moment, she feared they were right. Her doctor warned her that the lack of sleep was aggravating her high blood pressure and weakening her body further. The fatigue left her more vulnerable to falls, and the fog in her mind made her feel as though she were disappearing piece by piece. She had tried small adjustments, cutting water at night, adjusting her diet, taking naps during the day, but nothing helped. For Mary, each night felt like a battle she was destined to lose. Everything changed when she decided to commit, not to one solution, but to all of them together. Her daughter had read about 5 doctor-approved methods for reducing nighttime urination, and Mary agreed to try. "What have I got to lose?" she said, her New England practicality shining through. She began with the 2-4-6 hydration rule, drinking 2 glasses of water before 10 in the morning, 4 glasses spread evenly between 10 and 4, and limiting herself to just a small half cup after 6 p.m. No more random sips, no more gulping down water at night. Then she changed the timing of her medication, moving her blood pressure pills to the morning after breakfast so their diuretic effects would fade long before she went to bed. Next, she adjusted her bedroom environment, lowering the thermostat to 70 degrees, even though she had always preferred it warmer. She added a light blanket and breathable sheets so she felt cozy without overheating. She also adopted the 3-hour rule for meals, finishing her dinner by 5:30 each evening. At first, it felt strange not to eat late, but she quickly adjusted, choosing a bigger lunch and a lighter early dinner. Finally, she added the kitchen timer technique, setting alarms to remind her to drink steadily during the day and stopping completely by evening. It was a full commitment, and Mary treated it with the same discipline she once gave to raising her children. She wrote down each glass of water, checked her thermostat, and set her meal times like clockwork. The results were astonishing. Within 2 weeks, Mary's life had transformed. Instead of waking 7 times each night, she was sleeping straight through for 7 or 8 hours. Her mornings felt brighter than they had in over a decade. She found herself standing taller, moving with steadier steps. Her balance improved, her risk of falling diminished, and she no longer clutched the furniture as she walked through her home. Her blood pressure dropped to healthier levels, and even her memory sharpened. She could recall names, appointments, and recipes with ease. The change rippled through every part of her life. Her constant fatigue, which had left her too weary to enjoy her days, lifted. She began baking again, filling her kitchen with the smell of warm bread. She joined her church friends for lunch, laughing more than she had in years. Her garden, once neglected, bloomed again under her care. Her children, who had been so anxious, looked at her with relief and even a bit of awe. "It's like we have our mother back," her daughter said, tears in her eyes. Mary herself described it as rediscovering who she truly was. "For 15 years, she said, I thought this was just old age, that I had to accept it. But I was wrong. I didn't lose myself. I just lost my sleep, and now I've found it again." Her transformation shows that the methods are most powerful when combined. Hydration aligned with the body's rhythm, medication timed with care, a bedroom environment that supports rest, meals finished well before bedtime, and the kitchen timer to create structure. Alone, each offered help, but together they created a symphony of balance, restoring what Mary thought was gone forever. The beauty of her story is that it goes beyond fewer bathroom trips. It's about what quality sleep does for the whole person. Her immune system strengthened, her mood lifted, her laughter returned. She had the energy to live on her terms again, to prove to herself and her family that independence was not just possible but joyful. Mary's story is a reminder that it is never too late. Even at 85, after more than a decade of struggle, her body responded with gratitude when given the right support. She regained not only her nights but her days, filling them once more with purpose, dignity, and love. So if you have resigned yourself to sleepless nights, believing they are simply part of growing older, let Mary's story encourage you. Change is possible. Relief is possible. A return to energy, clarity, and joy is possible. The key is to embrace the rhythm of your body, to give it the care it deserves, and to combine small, gentle adjustments into a powerful transformation. Because sleep is not just about rest. It is about living fully. And like Mary, you, too, deserve to rediscover who you truly are. When you think back over all we've shared, it's remarkable how 5 simple shifts can bring back something as precious as sleep. We began with the 2-4-6 hydration rule, learning how to drink with the body's natural rhythm. We saw how moving medication to the morning could quiet those nighttime interruptions. We discovered the power of a cooler bedroom, the relief of finishing meals at least 3 hours before bed, and finally, the kitchen timer technique, a rhythm of hydration so steady it rewires the body for peace. These are not complicated tricks or unreachable solutions. They are small acts of care, rooted in respect for how our bodies change with age. Yet together, they can restore what many thought was gone forever. The ability to rest deeply, to wake refreshed, to walk into each new day with energy and hope. Just as Mary, at 85, reclaimed her nights, so can you. Imagine the joy of closing your eyes at night without worry, of sleeping soundly until morning, of greeting the sunrise with clarity and strength. That is not just a dream, it is possible, and you deserve it. If these lessons touched your heart, I'd love to hear from you. Share your story in the comments below. How many times do you wake at night, and which of these methods will you try first? And if you found value here, please like this video, share it with a friend who may need it, and subscribe so you never miss another message of hope and healing. Because better nights lead to brighter days, and your golden years are meant to shine.